I was halfway through my morning coffee when my phone buzzed. The name on the screen was my neighbor, Mr. Thompson, a man who treated small talk like an Olympic sport. Normally, I'd let it go to voicemail, but something told me this wasn't his usual. "Do you think the mailman looks suspicious?" kind of call. "You got a minute?" he asked the moment I picked up. His voice had that mix of urgency and conspiracy theory excitement that only retired men with too much free time could muster. "What's up?" I sighed, already bracing for whatever neighborhood drama was unfolding today. "It's the power," he said in a hushed tone. "I think someone's stealing it." I blinked. "Stealing electricity?" "Yeah, my bill's through the roof, and I know for a fact I haven't been using that much. I checked with the Johnsons, and they said the same thing. Something's fishy." I nearly laughed. "Thompson, I don't think anyone's siphoning power off your house like it's a gas station." "You say that, but last night I saw something weird. The streetlight outside my house flickered a few times, like really weird. And then I swear I heard this humming sound. Not normal humming, electrical humming." I pinched the bridge of my nose. "Thompson, you're 72. You probably just left your TV on again." "My hearing is better than yours, kid," he huffed. "Something's going on. If I'm wrong, you can say I told you so for the rest of the year. Just come take a look." I sighed, but curiosity was already gnawing at me. It wasn't that I believed him. It was that I had nothing better to do. And if Thompson was onto something, it would be way more interesting than watching reruns of a cooking show I had no intention of ever using. 15 minutes later, I was standing outside his house, staring at his power meter like I had any idea what I was looking for. "You see?" Thompson pointed at the numbers like they were some kind of ancient prophecy. "That's too high. I haven't even used my dryer this week." I frowned. Maybe there's a problem with the meter? That's what I thought, so I called the power company. They said the reading was accurate. He leaned in, lowering his voice. "I think someone in the neighborhood is running some kind of illegal operation." I raised an eyebrow. "Like what? A secret lab? A grow house?" "Something," he whispered. "And I think it's coming from that house." He gestured across the street, toward 418 Willow Lane. Now, 418 had always been a bit of an oddball on our quiet little street. It was the only house with blackout curtains drawn 24/7, and the owner, Mr. Carver, was the type of guy who mumbled just enough in conversation to make you wonder if he had bodies in his basement. He didn't socialize, he never came to HOA meetings, which I respected, honestly. And the last time someone tried to welcome him with a fruit basket, he shut the door before they could even say hello. "You think Carver is stealing your electricity?" I asked skeptically. "I know he is," Thompson declared. "Last night, I saw his house light up like a Christmas tree. But when I walked past this morning, dead quiet, not even a porch light." I crossed my arms. Maybe he just turns his lights off? Or maybe he's running something big and only powers it up at night. I shook my head. "Thompson, you've got way too much free time." "And you don't," he shot back. "Come on, don't you want to know?" I hated to admit it, but I did. There was something strange about the way 418 seemed to exist outside the normal rhythms of the neighborhood. No one ever saw Carver at the grocery store. His car was always parked in the same spot, like it hadn't moved in years. And now, with the sudden spike in electricity bills, it was enough to make me wonder. That night, I found myself parked in my driveway, staring at 418 through my rearview mirror. I wasn't spying, exactly. I was just observing, like a concerned neighbor. A concerned neighbor with snacks and a thermos of coffee. For the first few hours, nothing happened. The house sat there, dark and silent. But then, right around midnight, the streetlight outside flickered. Once. Twice. Then I heard it. A deep, vibrating hum. It was faint at first, like the low murmur of a distant engine. Then it grew stronger, reverberating through the pavement. I glanced around, expecting to see someone else noticing, but the street was empty. And then, asterisk whoosh asterisk, a faint blue light pulsed from behind 418's heavy curtains. Not a normal light. Not a glow from a lamp or a TV screen. This was something else entirely. Thompson might have been onto something after all. I grabbed my phone and snapped a quick picture, but the moment I did, the light cut out. The hum stopped. The house fell into darkness again, as if nothing had happened. I swore under my breath. Then a shadow moved behind the curtains. A tall, deliberate silhouette. I didn't stick around to see what happened next. The next morning, Thompson was waiting for me in my driveway, arms crossed. "Well," he demanded. I took a sip of my coffee. "I think we have a problem." His face lit up. Asterisk, I knew it. Asterisk, what did you see? I hesitated, replaying the eerie blue glow, the humming, the shadowy figure. I don't know yet, I admitted. But I'm going to find out. Because if there was one thing I couldn't stand, it was a mystery. And whatever was happening at 418 Willow Lane, it was just getting started. I barely got 2 hours of sleep. Every time I closed my eyes, I kept seeing that eerie blue glow seeping through the curtains of 418 Willow Lane. The humming sound still rattled in the back of my mind like an engine idling just beneath my skull. Maybe it was just some overpowered home theater system. Or maybe Carver had a whole underground bunker full of unlicensed technology. Either way, I was done ignoring it. By morning, Thompson was already waiting for me on my porch, gripping a thermos like it contained state secrets. You didn't call me, he said, clearly offended. I was trying to avoid indulging your paranoia, I shot back. But congratulations, you might actually be onto something. He grinned like I'd just handed him a medal. I knew it. What happened? Tell me everything. I glanced around, making sure no one else was listening. Our neighborhood was the kind of place where people prided themselves on their hedges and driveway cleanliness, but they also had a way of appearing out of nowhere when gossip was involved. If I said anything too loud, I'd have Mrs. Donovan accidentally jogging past every 5 minutes trying to eavesdrop. I lowered my voice. 418 lit up again. Same time as last night. The streetlight flickered, there was this weird humming sound, and then bam, blue light. Thompson sucked in a breath like I'd just confirmed aliens. You got pictures? I nodded. They're grainy, but yeah, you can see the glow through the curtains. He held out his hand expectantly. Let me see. I hesitated. Not because I didn't want to show him, but because once Thompson got involved, things tended to escalate at an alarming rate. The man once started a neighborhood watch just because someone knocked over his recycling bin. Still, I handed him my phone. He squinted at the screen, then zoomed in so aggressively I thought he was going to break the pixels. This is it, he whispered. This is proof. I frowned. Proof of what? He looked up at me, eyes practically gleaming. That something shady is going on in that house. And we're going to find out what. I sighed. Thompson. Listen, kid. He put a hand on my shoulder like he was about to bestow great wisdom. I've lived in this neighborhood for 25 years. I've seen it all. Feuding lawn decorators, rogue holiday carolers, and that time Mrs. Rodriguez tried to install a fountain without HOA approval. But never, in all my years, have I seen a man like Carver. He doesn't mow his lawn. He doesn't come to block parties. He gets mysterious packages delivered at odd hours. I raised an eyebrow. Mysterious how? They're heavy, he emphasized. And he always signs for them personally. No delivery guy leaves a package on his doorstep. You ever seen him get groceries? I thought about it. Come to think of it, I'd never seen Carver at the local supermarket. Never saw him at the gas station either. Exactly, Thompson said smugly. I don't trust people who don't buy groceries. It means they either have a secret food source or they're not human. I groaned. I regret telling you anything. No, you don't. He grinned. Now, what's the plan? The plan is to mind our business. Thompson snorted. Yeah, that's not happening. I knew it wasn't. The moment I let even a shred of curiosity slip, it was over. Thompson was in full detective mode now, and there was no stopping him. That night, I found myself crouched behind a row of hedges across from 418 Willow Lane, feeling like an idiot. Thompson had insisted on a stakeout, which sounded ridiculous until I realized I did want answers. We sat in silence, watching. The street was quiet. Porch lights flickered on and off as people settled in for the night. Then, right on cue, the streetlight outside 418 flickered. Once. Twice. The humming started, low and steady, vibrating through the pavement. I held my breath. And then the blue light appeared again, faint but unmistakable, leaking through the cracks in the curtains. Thompson nudged me. See. Not normal. Before I could respond, something moved. The front door of 418 cracked open just an inch. Just enough for a sliver of that eerie blue glow to spill onto the porch. A shadowy figure lingered in the doorway. Thompson grabbed my arm. Oh my God, oh my God. I clamped a hand over his mouth before he could say anything else. My heart pounded as the figure stepped outside. Even in the darkness, I could tell it was Carver. He was wearing a long coat, his posture stiff and deliberate. He didn't look around, didn't hesitate. And then he started walking. Not towards a car, not towards another house, but straight into the woods behind his property. Thompson's grip tightened. Where's he going? I didn't answer, because I had the same question. Without thinking, I moved forward. Thompson hissed. What are you doing? Asterisk. I ignored him, keeping low, following Carver's path from a distance. He moved quickly but quietly, like someone who'd done this 100 times before. I barely breathed as I crept behind him, every step bringing me deeper into the woods. Then he stopped. I ducked behind a tree, heart pounding. Carver stood in a small clearing, facing what looked like a metal hatch in the ground. It was round, like something you'd see in a bunker, with thick bolts sealing it shut. Then, he reached into his coat and pulled out a keycard. A keycard. Thompson, who had somehow followed me despite his protests, let out a barely contained squeak. Carver pressed the card against a panel on the hatch. A second later, there was a soft beep, and the hatch unlocked. I held my breath as he pulled it open, revealing a set of stairs leading into the earth. The blue light was brighter now, glowing from somewhere below. Carver disappeared down the stairs, and the hatch began to close. I turned to Thompson, eyes wide. We have to get in there. I didn't know what was worse, the fact that Carver had a secret underground lair, or the fact that I was seriously considering breaking into it. Thompson, of course, had already made up his mind. The moment the hatch sealed shut behind Carver, he grabbed my sleeve like a giddy kid on a field trip. This is huge, he whispered, his breath reeking of coffee and victory. I was expecting some weird electrical setup, maybe a stolen cable line, but this? This is next-level villainy. I rubbed my temples. You don't know that. Maybe it's a storm bunker. Thompson gave me a look. A storm bunker that requires a key card? Maybe he's just really careful about tornado preparedness. He snorted. Yeah, and I keep a retina scanner on my garden shed. I sighed. He was right, of course. There was no logical explanation for why a suburban recluse would need a secret, glowing basement locked behind high-tech security. Either Carver was running something shady, or we were standing on top of the strangest HOA violation in history. What now? Thompson asked, practically vibrating with excitement. We wait, I said. See how long he's down there. And so, we crouched behind a tree, staring at the metal hatch like two incredibly underqualified detectives. Every minute felt like an eternity. The neighborhood was silent, aside from the occasional hoot of an owl or the distant hum of traffic. 20 minutes passed. Then 30. Thompson checked his watch. I say we go in. I stared at him. With what keycard? We could, he snapped his fingers. Wait for him to come back and grab the card from him. You want to mug Carver? It's not mugging if it's for the greater good. I'm pretty sure that's exactly what mugging is. Thompson waved me off. Fine, plan B. We follow him when he leaves. See where he goes. It wasn't the worst idea, and honestly, I didn't have a better one. So we waited. Another 20 minutes passed before the hatch finally moved. With a faint metallic groan, it creaked open. Carver emerged, moving with the same careful precision as before. He locked the hatch behind him, tucked the keycard into his coat, and started walking back toward his house. I nudged Thompson. Let's go. We kept to the shadows, following at a safe distance. Carver walked with purpose, his posture stiff, his steps measured. I half expected him to glance over his shoulder, but he never did. It was like he knew he had nothing to worry about. When he reached his house, he slipped inside without hesitation. The porch light flickered once, then turned off. We crouched behind a neighbor's fence, watching. What now? Thompson whispered. I thought for a second. We need that keycard. Thompson grinned. Now you want to mug him. I don't want to mug him. I want to. I exhaled. I don't know. Get a better look. He nodded sagely. So we break in. No, we. I stopped. Because right at that moment, Carver's garage door started to open. We ducked lower. A sleek black SUV rolled out, its headlights flashing as it eased onto the street. Carver was leaving. Thompson grabbed my arm. This is it. We follow him. I hesitated. Every rational part of my brain told me to go home, forget about this, and let Carver do whatever weird bunker stuff he was into. But another part, the part that had seen that eerie blue glow, the part that had heard the power-sucking hum, knew I couldn't let this go. Fine, I muttered. But if we get arrested, I'm blaming you. We sprinted to my car, keeping the headlights off as we eased onto the road. Carver's SUV rolled down the street, slow and steady, like he had all the time in the world. He wasn't heading toward the highway. He wasn't heading into town. He was driving deeper into the neighborhood. Thompson frowned. Where's he going? I didn't answer, too focused on keeping our distance. Carver made a slow turn onto a side street, then another. He was weaving through the neighborhood like he was following a path only he knew. Then finally he stopped. I killed the engine, my heart hammering. Carver's SUV idled in front of a house at the end of the cul-de-sac. Not just any house, an empty one. The for sale sign on the lawn was faded, the windows dark. "What the hell is he doing?" Thompson whispered. We watched as Carver got out, his coat billowing slightly in the night breeze. He strode up the walkway and, without hesitation, pulled out the same keycard he'd used on the bunker. A tiny panel near the front door beeped. The lock clicked. Then he stepped inside. Thompson grabbed my arm again. "That house isn't supposed to have a keycard lock." "No," I agreed. "It's not." We sat in silence, waiting, watching. Minutes passed. Then suddenly, the blue light. Faint at first, then stronger, leaking from the cracks in the windows. I felt my stomach twist. Carver wasn't just using stolen electricity for his house. He had more than one location. Thompson let out a low whistle. "This is so much bigger than we thought." I swallowed hard. "Yeah, and now we have to find out why. We should have turned back. That was the logical thing to do. The smart thing to do. But there was something about that eerie blue glow spilling through the cracks of the empty house that made it impossible to walk away. It wasn't just curiosity anymore, it was a challenge. Thompson, of course, was already ahead of me, practically vibrating with excitement in the passenger seat. "We're going in," he whispered, like this was a heist movie and not two suburban idiots about to trespass. "We're not going in," I hissed back. "We're going to watch, gather information, and—" Thompson was already unbuckling his seatbelt. I groaned. "I regret everything." We crept out of the car, keeping low as we approached the side of the house. Up close, it was even creepier. Silent, lifeless, the kind of place real estate agents described as full of potential, but actually just felt like bad decisions waiting to happen. The blue glow pulsed faintly from behind the curtains. The same hum we'd heard before, low and steady, vibrated through the air. Thompson nudged me. "Okay, now can we break in?" I rolled my eyes. "Just look around first." We moved carefully, peeking through gaps in the curtains. Most of the house looked empty. No furniture, no personal belongings, except for the living room, where something definitely wasn't normal. A metal table sat in the center of the room, surrounded by a mess of tangled wires and glowing equipment. And Carver? He was in the middle of it all, staring at a screen filled with strange blue symbols. I turned to Thompson. "What the hell is that?" His face was pressed against the window like an overexcited raccoon. I knew he was up to something. This is some full-blown mad scientist stuff. I squinted. "It almost looks like—" I hesitated. "Blueprints." Thompson's eyes widened. "Like for a bomb? A time machine?" Would you shut up?" I yanked him back before his breath fogged up the glass. "We need to figure out what this actually is before you start screaming about government conspiracies." But before we could take another peek, Carver moved. He pressed something on the screen, and the glow intensified. The hum grew louder, vibrating in my bones. And then, the lights in the entire neighborhood flickered. Street lights, porch lights, even the distant glow of TVs behind drawn curtains. Everything dimmed for a few seconds, like something had sucked the power straight out of the grid. I turned to Thompson. "Tell me you saw that." His mouth was open. "Oh, I saw it. And I think we need to." The front door clicked. The handle turned. Carver was coming out. We dove behind a row of bushes, just as he stepped onto the porch. I held my breath. Thompson, beside me, was shaking, not with fear, but with the kind of manic energy that meant he wanted to do something insane. Carver stood there for a moment, scanning the street. The blue glow from inside cast eerie shadows across his face, making him look even more unsettling than usual. Then, slowly, he locked the door behind him and started walking toward his SUV. We waited. He got in, started the engine, and then he drove off, disappearing around the corner. I exhaled. That was too close. Thompson grinned. "You know what this means, right?" I stared at him. "Please don't say. We're going inside." I groaned. "Thompson, do you want to get arrested? Nobody's living here. It's not even his house." I hesitated. He had a point. This place was supposed to be empty, and technically, that meant we weren't trespassing on Carver's property. We were just exploring. 5 minutes, I said. Thompson clapped me on the back. "I knew you had it in you." The lock was electronic, but Carver, being the genius he apparently thought he was, hadn't accounted for one thing: a strategically placed brick behind the house. Subtle, I muttered as Thompson smashed the basement window. Shoo! He kicked away the broken glass and hoisted himself inside. Hurry up before someone sees us. I followed, landing in the dark basement with an ungraceful thud. The air smelled like dust and something metallic, like old wiring. A single door stood at the far end of the room. And beyond it, the humming. I swallowed. Last chance to back out. Thompson snorted. Not a chance. I sighed. Of course not. We crept forward and eased the door open. The glow was even brighter now, casting flickering shadows across the walls. The setup in the living room looked even more complicated up close. Screens displaying graphs, cables running across the floor, and at the center of it all, a device. I had no idea what it was, but it looked like something straight out of a sci-fi movie, circular, sleek, with an intricate pattern of glowing blue lines running along its surface. Thompson let out a low whistle. That is not standard home equipment. I stepped closer. The hum was stronger here, almost rhythmic, like a pulse. Whatever this thing was, it was drawing power. I reached out. The screen flashed. I yanked my hand back as the machine emitted a sudden high-pitched whine. Oh crap! The front door slammed open. Get down! We hit the floor just as a flashlight beam swept across the room. Footsteps. Fast. Heavy. Carver was back. Thompson's eyes were wide. What do we do? I swallowed hard. We hide. We scrambled behind the couch just as Carver stepped inside, muttering under his breath. The flashlight flicked across the walls, then stopped on the device. The humming grew softer. Carver sighed, rubbing his temple. Damn thing's unstable, he murmured. Just need more time. Thompson gave me a look that very clearly said, Asterisk, what the hell is he talking about? Asterisk. I had no answer. Carver walked toward the screen, tapping at something. The graphs flickered. The glow dimmed slightly. Then, without warning, the machine lurched. Not a simple flicker, not a small malfunction. Something inside it shifted, like gears realigning. The hum turned into a deep, vibrating thrum. Carver froze. Then he muttered, No, 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 and the entire room flashed white. I barely had time to yell before the floor vanished.